And we are here with a very special guest, all the way in Las Vegas, John D. Domenico.
Hey, Justin, how are you? Thanks for having me on, Justin.
Pleasure to see you here. I know we've been trying to get this interview for quite some time.
It's been tough. Crazy schedule. I have a feeling it's going to be slowing down a little bit. Who knows?
How are you doing? And what's the present life been for you during this pandemic?
All is well here in Las Vegas. We're dealing with COVID and all the other things. So most of my work is now all done remotely. I'm lucky. I have a TV studio here in the house, and I have a green screen studio, and I have an audio studio. So that makes it a lot easier. I was able to pivot like right in March and not really lose a step. Gratefully, the daily kind of stuff is just, I'm working, usually I travel about anywhere from 25 to 30 weeks a year. I'm on the road. Most of those jobs are 4, 5, 6 days, sometimes a week, or if I'm shooting something, it could be 2 weeks. It's so strange to be home like every single day and not be on a plane, and this is just one of those things that this is this global thing that's happened. So I think everybody's had to pivot and make some changes. And I think a lot of people have learned things about themselves, that they can be much more productive by not traveling and, being able to figure out things a little more. I know a lot of people are reading more and learning more and taking online classes. So hopefully when this is all over, which is really soon, hope we can just get vaccinated and get back to, normal life, if there's any, if that's a real term anymore. Working every day. I've been very, very lucky, 7 days a week since this has happened, because, obviously what I do, being a Trump impersonator on a bunch of different shows, we've just done everything remotely here from the house. But it's, with him, it's new material every hour. So we're trying to stay on top of things. I just did my rehearsal today with my people from the Howard Stern show, and we're prepping for my next appearance, which is coming up. And then I was just on James Corden this week on the Late Late Show doing a bit, Trump calling the Secretary of State of Georgia, asking for the 11,780 votes. You sure you can't find them? It's over there. Did you look there? Did you look there? So we have, had a lot of fun with that. So, and I'm shooting my own stuff. I have a White House press room set here, and I shoot my own things, put those on YouTube, and they're great because that's a much more pure form of what I do. I do kind of long form comedy. Those things are anywhere from 5 to, sometimes 15 minutes. But there's just so much material, and I've got to shoot them and I got to get them out, because if I don't, the next day's news cycle just makes what I shot almost irrelevant because of everything that's happening. And then, unfortunately what happened, I don't know when we're releasing this, but I think the date, January 7th, is going to be etched into a lot of people's memories and our national memory for a long time, because it was a very sad situation to see people breach the Capitol, breach the well of the Senate. It was very upsetting.
Let's talk about the year 2004. That's when you started doing Donald Trump as an impression. Describe the process of that, and did you have any other career goals in mind at that time?
Much further back than that, because when I was a kid, about 5 years old, I had a severe speech impediment. But I grew up in a neighborhood right outside of Philadelphia called Ambler. And the neighborhood that I lived in was all row homes. It was hundreds and hundreds of row homes. And people would sit out in the warm weather, summertime, warm weather. A lot of people didn't have air conditioning. This was the late 60s. So I was this precocious kid, and I would watch Ed Sullivan, Merv Griffin, or who was ever on, Mike Douglas, and I would watch all these other impressionists, and I would come out in front of my neighbors, and I would do voices, and I would do what I had just heard on these shows, and my neighbors loved it. They just thought it was the funniest thing in the world that this 5-year-old precocious kid was doing this, and I got a lot of affirmation out of it. I loved it. Like right then, I wanted to be a performer. Early on, I just really liked people who did impressions. I wanted to be an actor, but there was just something about voices and playing that voice. So when I was a kid, I bought an album called Nixon, A 4-Year Fantasy, I think it was called, by David Fry. And David Fry was a comedian, writer, impressionist, impersonator, and he did this amazing Nixon, but this album was a concept album from beginning to end. It was like a story, which has really impacted me because it helps me a lot with narrative structure when I write material. And on it, he did 40 voices. And then he brought in another impersonator by the name of Gabe Kaplan to do some of the remaining voices that he couldn't do. Well, Gabe Kaplan went on to do Welcome Back, Kotter, which is one of the biggest TV series in the 70s. It was huge. So as soon as I got into first grade, they diagnosed me with this speech impediment, and I did 8 years of speech therapy, 2 times a week for 8 years. And what that did for me was obviously corrected the impediment, but they also, unbeknownst to them, were teaching me how to manipulate my voice and how to change my voice and how to, change my throat placement and my nasal placement, my actual vocal production, so I could be doing Austin Powers, baby, yeah, or Dr. Phil, because every voice is very, very different. So that was a big thing for me. It really helped me come up with a scientific way to learn, break the voices down, whoever I heard, and then kind of reassemble those elements. Because like I said, throat placement, nasal placement, actual vocal production. Where is it being made? Is it being made in the mouth? Is it being made in the back of the throat? Some people really speak here. Some people are mumblers. Some people have more of a, having spent years being an actor, doing theater, I project naturally more. So all these little things, cadence is really important. Trump is a big, it's very specific to him because he slows down and he speeds up, he slows down and he speeds up. So cadence is really important. So those years of speech therapy were so valuable to me. And then finding someone like David Fry in that album, I think it came out like 1974. I was really young, but it just made such an impression. So I kept doing voices, figuring out I wanted to be an actor. In high school, I did theater. In college, I was doing theater and acting and stand-up and writing, and all of those components were happening. And then when I left college, I was looking to move from the Philadelphia area to New York. And New York's not that far from Philly, but they're two really totally different places. My thought was, well, I know the history of New York, I know how it was formed and all those historical elements, and I wanted to learn more about 84, 85, 86, because I had been going up there during my high school years in the late 70s. And I was just trying to, what's happening in New York? And one of the names that came up all the time was Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. And there's also Leona Helmsley, who was a big hotel person too. But I thought, who's this guy, Donald Trump? And I kind of started reading about him, and he was just this fascinating guy. It's almost like a Horatio Alger story, who sounds like he ripped, like he started with nothing, and then later on you learn that none of that's true. But he was this really fascinating guy, very verbose, very over the top, and I just thought, oh, that's really interesting. And I started following him, and I was married at the time. And this is in 1987. He wrote Art of the Deal, and I actually asked my wife for that book for Christmas, and I still have it to this day. And it's funny what my wife, my first wife, wrote in the book. She goes, I don't like this guy. I don't like what he stands for. But here's the book. And I just thought that was the funniest thing. So I was always kind of interested in him going back to 87, then 88, 89. I was working in Atlantic City. So the Trump properties, I was working at the Trump properties. I didn't meet him or come across him. Then I was doing a play in Philadelphia that ended up moving to the Trump Plaza. That was 1990. That was the first time I met him. And then around that time, I worked there a lot, started working in New York, stayed in Philadelphia, was performing kind of all over the place. And then around 99, I performed at his 55th birthday party at Trump Castle. So I was on stage with him. I rehearsed with him prior, was on stage with him, did this whole bit where I jumped out of a cake. So that was the first time I actually talked to him. So in a way, he was kind of just in my universe. He was in Atlantic City where I was working. He was in New York where I was working. They were talking about opening a Trump hotel in Philadelphia. I found him to just be this fascinating character. And then, fast forward to 2004, when The Apprentice was on, all of a sudden, He's even bigger now. He's gone from being this regional celebrity, Apprentice being such a hit. All of a sudden he was just so popular. So having that ace in my pocket, I never stopped doing him over the intervening years. He was just so popular, and I had got the wig made and, bought the suits and the ties and the shirts, corporate events, roasting people. I was doing closing night events. I was doing the opening of the events. I would come in and do a corporate takeover. So there were so many different things to do with him because he's kind of a flexible character. And also he's like an insult comic. He's like the new Don Rickles. But when he announced in 2015, it just went, I was, like I said, I was in the right place at the right time.
Now, you started your acting career back in the 1980s.
Right.
And when was your realization that you realized, I'm going to have a career in acting?
I always wanted to do it. And I was very lucky that I got jobs really, really early. You get a play or something, you're like, this is great. You're like, you're employed for a year and you just think you're going to go to your next job. And then you're unemployed for a year. So you're doing a lot of whatever you need to do. I mean, I was cleaning offices at night. I was cutting grass. I was driving limos. When you want to be an actor and you really have that desire to do it, it's almost like a virus. It's just like, it just never goes away. I mean, I'm 58 years old and I'm still, I'm working as an actor, but, I'm not on a national television show. I haven't done a movie recently. So, you really have to have a passion to do this or else you fall out, which a lot of actors that I came up with, you eventually get a job. They need an income. They have kids, or a lot of the women that I knew who are great actresses and great comedians, they end up getting married. And then years later, after the kids go off to college, they might get back into it. But it's tough. I honestly can say, like, from the time I was 5 years old, it's the only thing I wanted to do. In that way, I'm very lucky. But, I work 7 days a week. If I'm not actually performing, I'm looking for work, or I'm with my agents trying to close a deal so I can get the next job set up. We were on the phone for an hour today with somebody who wants me to be a character spokesperson for their line. So I'd be like a brand ambassador for them. And, it's going to take a lot of negotiation, a lot of time. Now, it's not acting, but it's kind of acting because I'm going to be in character in their commercials and character at their events, but it's not, on a set, learning a script, working with other actors. But this is what, keeps me going and keeps me afloat. So, like, if something comes up, a film role, TV role, then I'm ready. I'm in the position where I'm flexible enough to be able to do it and not say to my boss at the, at the Walmart, hey, can I have the week off? So I've been, I'm very lucky. I've got an incredible work ethic. I like to work. I don't mind getting up at, 6 a.m. every morning and putting my time in here in the office, finding new opportunities, creating new opportunities. And that's the only way you can do this nowadays. One of the things, because of the internet, something people don't realize is rates have actually come down. There's a lot more content now. There's a lot more TV shows, and they're not paying like when there were 3 networks. When you have Hulu, Prime, Netflix, and all the other ones on top of, everything else, and then the streaming services from CBS, one of the things that's happened is that pay for actors has actually come down. Blessing and a curse that there's more places to perform, but you're not going to make the money that used to be there.
When you were growing up, who were some of your inspirations? And, where do you draw your creativity or influences from?
It was very tough growing up. My dad had a 9th grade education and was a steel worker. And I honestly, I love where I'm from, but I just wanted to get out of there. It was a very tough situation. It was grew up in a row home neighborhood. We were all packed in like sardines. There were 7 people in my house where I grew up. There was 1 bathroom, 7 people. So it was very, very difficult. I knew that there was a better life out there. Probably not being an actor would be the way to get to it, but it's just something that I automatically gravitated towards. And I like being in front of people. I like performing, and I get a lot of affirmation from it. So probably if I didn't have an unbelievable need for adulation, I'd probably be the VP of a division of a manufacturing or something, or selling cars. But I've got to get in front of a live audience. It is my drug. It's what keeps me going. I really enjoy that. I kind of come to life as a performer.
What do you enjoy about your profession? You know, being an actor, being a comedian, and being a writer.
You know, it's a great community. You know, when I started in New York, I knew so many great young actors, and some of them went on to some really big things, but most actors are really, really smart. They're very, very focused. This is New York actors. They're incredibly well-read people. They know literature, they know theater, they know the writers. My shelves are just all books on theater and acting and script writing and all those types of things. That's what I loved about it. And there's just so much creativity, and it's so amazing to be with really creative people, really funny people. When I was doing stand-up, I spent a lot of time with comedians. Still talking to, I spoke to somebody, a really well-known comedian yesterday, because we were just kind of kicking around different ideas. It's that collaboration. It's, if you love comedy, like I love comedy, it just means so much to me. Like, comedy was something that got me through my childhood. Humor, you know, a lot of irreverent humor to deal with like really tough times, tough financial times, tough situations, loss. It's a mechanism that kind of gets you through tough things. So to me, being an actor means so much. You're creating something, you're putting it out there, and you're going to get paid for that. You're not trading your hours, like an hourly job, for time. I'm creating it's a risk, you know what I mean? Like, if I broke my leg tomorrow, there's no real way for me to make a living. I'm committed to this, and I really love what I do, and I feel very lucky. There's a lot of different platforms now where you can put things out. Some things you can monetize, some things you can't. There's just no way to do it, but they give you an opportunity to be funny in different ways and to perform in different ways that you may have not thought of. And then, you know, my fiance really got me into TikTok. We have like 4 million followers now. And she took me in kicking and screaming, because I'm like, what am I going to do in 15 seconds? I'm a long form comedian. But that was another place. So it kind of helps you exercise different muscles in different ways. 15 minutes here, 30 seconds there, 15 seconds here, something here. So you're always creating. I'm certainly creating a lot more in these last few years because of all the social media platforms.
You've impersonated many celebrities, from Ember Lagasse to Mike Myers to Dr. Phil, and the list goes on. Which have to be your favorite, and why?
Austin Powers. And, you know, Austin Powers isn't a person like Trump or Dr. Phil, but Mike Myers just created this incredibly funny, classic character. He's the bumbling guy who thinks all the ladies love him. And, you know, it's just so funny. And, you know, I've done that character literally all over the world. And I just have to say, when people see Austin Powers, and it could be 100 yards away from me, but when they see the suit and the wig and the teeth, they just smile. And it's so great to do a character that people love. And I think one of the things about Austin Powers is he's just so happy to see you, baby. What's going on, Justin? You know, and people love that. They love when somebody loves to see them. And it's one of those great elements. And then you've got the, you know, and also there's a yin and yang element to it with Dr. Evil. So now you've got somebody else. You have two sides of one coin, you know, right? Exactly. Okay. So I just think it's brilliant in its creation. It's brilliant in its execution. And then for me, I'm like the same height as Mike Myers. I'm the same weight. I have the same kind of big round face that he has. So as soon as I realized, and I'd already been doing some of his other characters from Saturday Night Live, but as soon as I realized, like, oh, I used to do Wayne from Wayne's World. It's like, all right, excellent. Hi, I'm Wayne Campbell from Aurora, Illinois. Excellent. Swing. I knew that if I could do that voice, I could do the Austin Powers voice too, baby. Yeah. So it was one of those things I just kind of slid right into that character in 1997. I almost consider it like a classic character now. You look at like Elvis and Marilyn, and, you know, there are certain things that 100 years from now, there's going to be people doing Elvis and Marilyn. And I think there's going to be people doing Mike Myers, Austin Powers. He's created this really iconic character that's so funny, that is so physically interesting. There's just so many elements to him: the teeth, the glasses, the way he dresses. I think I love doing it. I don't have the energy I used to have. Like, I started doing him in 97. It's 2021. And, to do this for an hour, I need to start training months in advance. It's like the New York City Marathon.
Your career just, I guess you can say, just blew up, I guess you can say. You've done a lot, from, the many guest appearances to the news media outlets to just being nominated for an Emmy Award for commercial work, and just everything that you've done, overall, how does that feel for you?
Oh, it feels great. It's when he announced in 2015, one of the things was, like I said before, like, everybody came to me because I was one of the few people doing Trump. So it was such a great affirmation to have developed this character. And I wasn't just doing it like right then in 2015. I'd gone back all the way to 2004. So I've been doing him for a really long time and had a really long runway. And it kind of goes back to what I said about, like, commitment. Like, I committed to the character. I bought the very expensive wig. I had it custom made, and the suits and ties. So when it happened, I was ready to go. And there's a book about acting by Uta Hagen, which is probably one of the best acting teachers ever. But the book is called An Actor Prepares. And the thing that you learn about acting is you never know when the opportunity is going to come. You just never know. So you have to be prepared for that opportunity. If you're prepared for the opportunity and it comes and you're right for that role, and not a role in a show or movie, but this role as Trump, everything came together and it all paid off. And it was just show after show, and a couple of movies and podcasts and web series and commercials and corporate work. And it all just was totally right place, right time. That second half of 2015 and all of 2016 on the run up to the election was just absolutely insane. I was crisscrossing the country and going around the world. And it was, it was a heady time. I'm so glad I had that experience. And I'm so happy that I had really committed and had been ready for it. As a writer, as a performer, as a comedian, I was ready. I had no idea it was going to happen, but it did. And I was able to take advantage of that moment.
Knowing that you've had a lot of success in your career, what is something that you wish you would have known?
I probably would have maybe not gone to New York necessarily. I maybe had gone to Toronto or to Chicago to be in Second City, or LA to the Groundlings, to do that, to get the work process started much earlier. Maybe skip college, go there, get in Second City, and start the nuts and bolts work that you have to do to be a comedic actor.
And who are 3 people that you're most thankful for?
My fiance is amazing, and she's been great. I'm so grateful for my dad. He was kind of a tough guy, but the thing that he taught me was, like, just to really work hard. He used to say, no one owes you anything, nothing, not even an opportunity. He was a hard scrabble guy. So that really let me know, like, no one's going to hand me anything. Like, you really have to work for this, and you're going to get punched in the face a lot in this business, and a lot of rejection. Do it yourself. You've got to make the work yourself. And another person I was really thankful for, a buddy of mine, Joey Perillo, who early on, when I was just an actor, he was the one who let me know about corporate work. And that really has paid the bills for many, many years between jobs. But I'm able to be a performer at corporate meetings and things like that. It's just that you'll never see it, and no one else will see it. But so much of performing is time. You got to put your 10,000 hours in on your comedy, your 10,000 hours in on your drama, 1,000 hours in on your writing, and your 10,000 hours in on your stage time. All those things take time.
When people look back on your career, what would you like your legacy to be?
A hardworking actor that helped other performers. I believe in community, helping as many people as possible, because that comes back to you, and a high tide lifts all boats.
And we are here with John D. Domenico. Emmy nominated actor. He's been doing such great things. He's an actor, comedian, writer. Just want to say I appreciate you. Wish you all the best.
All right. Thanks, Justin. Continued success, man. Thanks for having me on.